What's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of Between the Lines. I'm your host, Tanner Kern. I'm joined by Colten Kahler. Colten, how you doing?
Great, Tanner. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know what? Baseball's back. I'm very excited about this. It was a long winter. I mean, I know, I'm sure it was for you as a baseball fan as
A
well.
very, very long winter, and I could not be any more excited for April 7th.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, it's crazy to think it's really cold here in Boston right now. Opening day would be in a few days, so might be good we pushed it off a little bit with the weather. How's the weather out in Illinois?
It is cold. It's going to rain all day tomorrow. I had a really good week of spring break. It was like 70 degrees all week. Got to play golf a couple of times, and now everyone else is on spring break, and it's 40 degrees and raining. So it's a typical spring here in Illinois, but I'm hoping for warm weather here soon.
Yeah, definitely. Are you guys doing the whole stadium tour like you were talking about last year?
Yeah, we're still planning on it. We're kind of making some slight modifications, kind of with everything going on. Might have to skip Toronto because of who knows whether they're going to allow fans or not. But yes, the trip is still intact right now, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. I would love to definitely get out to the Midwest, like your ballpark areas, like Busch Stadium. Now, we'll start with this. I mean, right off the bat, Albert Pujols coming back. You're a Cardinals fan. What's the thoughts on that?
It's my guy. I mean, he was by far my favorite player. And I was I think it was in 5th grade when he left, and I was devastated. I cried. I was like, what am I gonna do? My favorite player is gone. And so it's something that I've wanted for the last year. After he was released last year with the Angels, I really wanted to bring him back, but it didn't make a whole lot of sense baseball wise. But now that he's back, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, both logistically and from the baseball perspective, because they're going to make a lot of money this year. The St. Louis Cardinals will not be a small market team this year because of the ticket sales that they will have.
Oh, 100%. I mean, bringing Pujols back is worth it just for that. And then the standing ovation he's going to get at Busch, that first homestand. Oh, wow. I mean, that's going to give you goosebumps.
I'll be there opening day.
Really?
I'm skipping out on class on Thursday. The memories are much more important to me than sitting through some communication classes, in my opinion. Stay in school, kids. But I will be I'll be reporting. Might even do a St. Louis sports special from outside the stadium on that Thursday, and then I'll be back down there Saturday for the second game as well. So it'll be a very good start to the season.
Yeah, for sure.
Colten Kahler.
Awesome, man. That's going to be exciting. Yeah, I'll say one thing about college before we move into free agency here. I learned a lot in college, right? I don't use everything. I did learn how to podcast in college. So this was kind of the one thing that I took from it. And now, you know what? We're podcasting right now. So you know what? Kids stay in school. Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals got busy this offseason. I wish the Red Sox would have got a little busier. I mean, busy in the sense that you bring Pujols back and stuff, but I wish the Red Sox would have got a little busier besides just bringing Story on there. I think their rotation and bullpen's a little scary right now for me.
I think you honestly can say that about a lot of teams. The Cardinals brought in Steven Matz, kind of a average run-of-the-mill left-hander kind of guy that's been through the ringer a little bit in New York with the Mets, just finished up his stint in Toronto. So I'm not really sure what they're going to get out of him. Hopefully, a guy that can eat innings, brings that left-handed talent that typically St. Louis doesn't have. But their bullpen's it's kind of going to be a little sketchy. And especially now with Jack Flaherty hurt, Alex Reyes hurt as well. There's a lot of teams that are going to have some bullpen issues and pitching issues here to start the season.
100%. And you know what? As bad as my Red Sox pitching staff is probably going to be, they'll get hot at some point. You know what? Baseball's back, so that's all that matters. So we're going to start by breaking down MLB free agency winners and losers. This is always a great topic at this point in the season. And the best part is, like, baseball starts in a week, and we're talking free agency because, the shortened off season here. We'll start with the Dodgers, obviously. I think that's the number one team that won free agency because they're not afraid to go out and spend. They spent, Freddie Freeman, 6 years, $162 million. That lineup is scary, Colten. I think they will be taking your Cardinals deep multiple times this year. What are your thoughts on the Los Angeles Dodgers?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely the number one winner in my book this offseason. They spent money on Freddie Freeman. They did lose Kenley Jansen. their pitching department is kind of going to be, it's still going to be probably top, towards the top of the league. But it kind of depends because I think Julio Urias got hurt this last week.
Yeah.
And, they didn't spend money on Scherzer, which, I thought the Mets overpaid for him. So, that could be a blessing in disguise for them. But by far, I mean, that lineup from top to bottom is unbelievable.
Yeah, and you had the Mets as a loser, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But I think the pitching staff for Los Angeles, that all depends on Trevor Bauer too. I think right now he's not supposed to play. I saw he just filed a lawsuit, but I believe he will be back at some point this year because he won in court at least with the whole original lawsuit and all that.
Yeah, it definitely. Their rotation is going to be dictated a lot around him. They're still going to have Kershaw. Granted he's old, but might be able to pull an Adam Wainwright. Kind of late in your career and just razzle and dazzle him a little bit. But
Yeah.
And then they still have Walker Buehler as well, who's going to be phenomenal. Tony Gonsolin, he'll be all right. And if they can get Julio Urias, I mean, he was unbelievable last year, and especially the year before when they won the World Series as well.
Now, what do you think you get out of Waino as a Cardinals fan? I always like asking this. Like last year, he was sensational, right? For how old he was. He's coming back another year. I think this could be 1 year too many for my opinion, but I'm an outsider. I'm not a Cardinals fan.
Yeah, no, really the last 2 years, he's been kind of the ace of that pitching rotation. Because quite honestly, since 2019, the second half of that season when Flaherty went nuts, you really haven't had him a whole lot because he's been injured. Miles Mikolas has been injured. Alex Reyes has been injured. I mean, you name it, and a Cardinals player has been injured in that pitching rotation besides the oldest guy on the team, Adam Wainwright. So, if he's a guy that can go out there and give you 6-7 innings, and maybe a run or two, that's all you got to take from him. And you'll take what you get, but he's a guy he's a gamer. He'll go out and he'll compete. And he'll battle his butt off. And, it's what he's done his entire career.
No, I mean, I'm not following the news in St. Louis. Do you think this is going to be his last year along with Yachty? They go out together?
From what he has said, no. From what the organization has said,
yes,
it may be his last year with the Cardinals. Now, is it his last year in the MLB? Who knows? I think a lot depends on how he performs this year. But there is quite the battle going on right now. Because anytime John Mozeliak speaks, he includes Adam Wainwright in that retirement tour. And anytime Adam Wainwright speaks, he says, I could say this is it. He goes, but I don't really know. He goes, I love the pitch. He goes, I'd love to be with my kids and get a dog, but, he's still pitching at a very high level. So he's leaving all doors open, and it wouldn't be surprising for him to come back for another year.
You know what I want to see? I want to see the Cardinals do some damage in the Central this year. I'd like to see them get hot when it's not too late. Like, last year they got hot at the right time. Obviously, they had an amazing run, but I want to see them get hot at a point where it's like they just roll the Central Division.
In my opinion, they could. Everything on my show this last week, I had Tom Ackerman of KMOX Sports. He kind of covers the Cardinals for them in St. Louis. And we both agree that everything is kind of centered around their pitching staff. I think that their lineup from top to bottom can compete. It's not as good as, the Dodgers. It doesn't have quite the star power, but it's enough to compete with the Dodgers. And again, the kryptonite is if their pitching staff is kind of how they were through about the first 3/4 of last season, it's not going to be a good year for St. Louis, but they also are in a Central Division that's really down this year as well. The Brewers lost some key pieces from their lineup. Their rotation is back. The Cubs, they're kind of in that middle ground, and I think they'll be the third team, but they'll still compete. And then the Reds, and Pirates are kind of, what they are.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Colton, I'm about to drop a bomb on you. You ready for this?
Okay.
All right. My two biggest, besides the Dodgers and winners that nobody would have expected, right? My two biggest winners, I'm going to first say the Rangers. Getting Corey Seager, 10 years, $325 million. That shows you want to go out and compete. And then Marcus Semien, 7 years, $175 million. And John Gray, 4 years, $56 million. So I think the Rangers did an excellent job in free agency. Then you look at the Rockies. Now, the Rockies have no chance in the National League West, like absolutely no chance.
Right.
But they were able to convince Chris Bryant to go there and say, you know what? We have a chance of winning in the future over the course of your deal, right? I don't think it's going to happen, but the fact that you could get Chris Bryant to Colorado, he's a competitor, like he's not folding going there. He obviously thinks they can win. Those are my two winners of free agency.
There's two things I have about the whole Chris Bryant situation. One, I should be careful with my words because my girlfriend's favorite player is Chris Bryant and is just devastated that he's no longer in the Cubs. So I should be careful with my words. But if he thought St. Louis was boring, imagine what his career for the next 8 years in Colorado is going to be like. He will be bored out of his mind in that division that they're just going to get dominated in.
Yeah.
Secondly, they also have like the most inept front office ever. And we saw that with the Nolan Arenado trade. So, I mean, yeah, he got his contract, but good luck trying to bring anyone else in.
Yeah. And I think the Rockies, like, that's an interesting move from Chris Bryant. Now, I think Chris Bryant's very good. I'm not going to say he's the best player in baseball, like not up there on that list. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%.
The name Chris Bryant is bigger than how he plays. That's what I would say.
Correct. Yes, correct.
But the fact of the matter is, it's like, you're going to go to Colorado. You know you're not going to win with the Dodgers in that division. No matter if Dave Roberts is coaching or whatever, they're always going to spend money on that team. I mean, you got the Padres who are going to be loaded for years to come with their young talent. And then the Giants are going to be the Giants, right? So it's going to be tough to win there. Now, what do you think about the Rangers? They were my favorite team this offseason.
I had them in my losers. They spent money at the middle infield, but their pitching staff is next to atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
They really don't have a whole lot in their outfield. And I don't know what their bullpen's like really. But I thought they spent a lot of money on two players, and then they're very top heavy, especially with, Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. So, yeah, I think they're top heavy and they spent a lot of money on two players. And I think the pitching staff is really going to be what causes them their issues, but they're also in that are they in the West, right?
Or they're in the West.
AL West. Yeah. So they're also in a division where, I mean, Seattle, I think could make some noise in that division.
Yeah.
I think the Angels could make some noise in that division. And there's two pitching staffs right there that are already better than Texas. So I think all of that is going to be dictated a lot, but also Houston. I mean, Houston's going to be, they lost Carlos Correa, but it sounds like his replacement's going to be, just as good, if not better. So, and their pitching staff is arguably one of the better ones in that division as well. So, I mean, right off the bat, in my opinion, I put Texas at fourth in that division.
Yeah, and I think when you sign Corey Seager to a 10-year deal, like one, Marcus Semien and Seager are going to sell tickets. I mean, that's going to get people excited about baseball in Arlington. Number two is you look at this team, right? This is a 10-year deal for Corey Seager. They're going to try to win over 10 years. So, yeah, the pitching staff isn't there right now, but I think for what the future is going to be there, it was a good move. I mean, I love seeing teams go out and spend money because you look at, the team like the Rays, the Rays. I mean, Rays don't spend money, but they always win. So I can't really include them there.
The Cardinals, they don't spend money.
Yeah, there you go. Like there's a lot of teams that just choose not to spend money. Like they don't care about winning. They just want to make a profit. But in the end of the day, baseball's about winning rings. Like it's winning World Series.
Right. And if you look at the Braves last year, they won 85 games to win their division in the regular season. And then they go on and get hot in the playoffs. And, the rest is history.
Definitely. So I'm going to give my biggest loser right now. Then I'll let you hop on with your loser spiel about the Mets because I'm interested to hear that. We're going to go to New York. We're both in New York right now. So I'm going to go with the Yankees in the Bronx. I think the Yankees had the worst free agency, and they always have a bad free agency. Like I don't know. They just signed powerful right-handed hitters. Now they got Anthony Rizzo. That was their big blockbuster deal. Free agency, 2 years, $32 million. He's going to be a good lefty that can balance out this lineup a little bit, but it's all just strikeout, home run, strikeout, home run. And every year it shows you cannot win with strikeout, home run. You need balanced lineup. That's why the Red Sox kicked their ass last year.
No. Okay. So now how much bias was in that pick?
There was no bias in that pick. They didn't do anything. They literally didn't do anything.
They did make a trade.
Yeah, but still, they didn't do much.
I think Josh Donaldson will be all right for the Yankees. But
he ain't bring our reign MVP Josh Donaldson anymore, though. Like
no, he's not. But as I've always said, Trevor, the Yankees can get away with signing powerful hitters,
Mhm.
both, lefty and righty, because you can take a cast iron pan up the bat at Yankee Stadium and hit a home run. It's
Yeah.
it's that big of a short porch. So, I think the Yankees will be fine because they have a decent pitching staff, but also right now that they know, in my opinion, it's win now time for the Yankees. If they don't win a ring either this year or next, I mean, they haven't been to the World Series since what, 08, 09? Is that right?
Yeah.
Um, so, and let alone they really haven't made a whole lot of noise. They lost to Houston a couple of times. And if they don't win within at least the next year or two, there's going to be a lot of people within that front office and a lot of players that will no longer be with that organization.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, you look at Booney, them re-signing Booney. I think Booney was fine. I don't think he was the issue there, but this team just can't win. And I was at Fenway, for the wild card game last year, and all those late games down the stretch when the Yankees owned us too. It's like I was just waiting for New York to strike, and I felt like really worried. And then I was like, listen, this team's not that good if they're not hitting home runs. They need to be hitting home runs to be good. And they got cold. They got too hot too early, and then they got cold when they needed to get hot.
Right.
So Mets.
The Mets, yes. So I've got them as my losers because, I mean, their lineup is not great. I mean, not great, Tanner. They lost, Javier Baez. He would be a perfect fit for the Yankees because he swings at 54-foot curveballs or
Yeah.
he pimps a home run. I mean, there is no in between.
Yeah.
You get what you get. He'll strike out 200 times this season and he'll probably hit 40 home runs. I mean, it is what it is. And they heavily overpaid for Max Scherzer. I mean, MLB.com just came out with their top pitching rotations in MLB. Like 20 minutes ago, maybe. And they have the Mets as the number one team, which is a load of garbage, in my opinion, because you already know Jacob deGrom is going to give you half a season as he has for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
They lost Noah Syndergaard, who was supposed to be that guy. And I mean, they can't stay healthy as an organization. So how can you depend on them to be reliable? And they really didn't do a whole lot to build up their lineup because, yeah, you've got Francisco Lindor, you've got Pete Alonso, but you have Brian McCann as your catcher. I mean, come on. And you went and spent money again on Robinson Cano. And then you've got Michael Conforto in the outfield. It's not a good lineup.
No, they haven't brought Conforto back yet.
They haven't?
No.
Oh, see, I thought they did.
I didn't see that. Let me see. I think Conforto's still out there. Yeah, as a cautionary tale for let me see. Michael Conforto contract. Let me look this up. I think he's still out there. I could be wrong.
But regardless, I mean, they haven't done a whole lot to muster up their lineup. And it's especially in a division that got a lot better. Atlanta, they're going to be in a much better spot. Philadelphia is going to be in a lot better of a spot than New York. And, Miami, you don't quite want to sleep on them, but they're not quite to that level yet.
Go Cardinals. Our whole company is a Cardinals organization, Colin.
I love it. I love it.
I don't mind it. It's not the American League, at least. Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that the Mets did well this year is they went out and they got Max Scherzer, and that is going to sell tickets. Like, I think for the first time in a long time, people are really excited about baseball in Queens, like just as excited about baseball in Queens as they are in the Bronx. I know Mets fans are diehard too, but the Yankees kind of control that city. The Yankees own that city. I think by signing Max Scherzer, having Jacob deGrom, there's a lot of excitement there. Frankie Lindor needs to have a better year this year. I think that's the key for them. And Conforto is a free agent right now. He still doesn't have a deal.
Yes. But I mean, they're outfield right now. Mark Canha, Starling Marte, and Brandon Nimmo. I mean, Eduardo Escobar at third, Jeff McNeil, James McCann, at catcher. It doesn't impress me all that much. And I mean, 3 years, $130 million for Scherzer.
Yeah.
Still overpaying.
Well, especially when he's that old too. Like he's getting up there in age. I'm not saying he's not pitching. I mean, he's been sensational in spring training, but like it kind of scares me that Scherzer's pushing 40 years old and he's like, I want to throw 110 pitches in my last spring training start. Like,
right.
That scares me a lot.
Yeah, and it's you got Chris Bassett, Tejan Walker, and Carlos Carrasco as your other 3 starters. I mean, It's a decent top 3, and Carrasco's not a terrible 5 guy. But again, they've got to stay healthy. And when was the last time a Mets rotation stayed healthy?
Yeah, I mean, it all revolves around Jacob deGrom, honestly. Like, I think what's crazy to me when I think about this, you got deGrom, Syndergaard, and Harvey came in the same class together. Like, that trio was and Harvey was the best one out of all of them at one point.
Right.
Which is scary.
Exactly.
Is he even in the league anymore? Is he?
No, he's in trouble for.
The drug thing.
Yeah, the drug thing.
But you know what? I got a thought on that too. You sparked my interest there, sparked my memory. He went in front of a U.S. court, and they gave him like free reign to talk without having any legal trouble. Now, Major League Baseball was saying like you're not going to be allowed back in the league. Like they might hold it against him, but the U.S. government gave him like I don't know what the word is. I'm not a law student, but they like the U.S. government said you can talk with no punishment, and now MLB might punish him.
Right, which
Rob Manfred.
Yeah, it's Rob Manfred. He's bad for baseball, but it's kind of that thing of it's kind of freedom of speech, but remember what you say, it still has consequences, to some people.
Yeah.
And it's again, it's not surprising that the MLB is going to hold that against them because people who use smoke weed or whatever get suspended for 90 games, but there's the punishment system in the MLB and professional sports as a whole makes no sense at all.
Yeah. Well, I just don't. I can't imagine like MLB should never rank higher than the U.S. government, right? If the U.S. government gives whatever appeal or annulment, I don't even know what the word is.
You
would think MLB would just follow along with the government, but no. All right, Colin, you ready to jump in some win totals? You got any more teams for me?
No, the Reds. I mean, they had the quickest. Hey, we're back, and then we're now in a rebuild again because it heavily failed. So to all the Reds fans, if there are any of them out there, I don't know. I mean, I feel like being a Reds fan is like such a thing of like the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not much of an NL Central guy, I'm going to be honest with you, but I did follow the Reds a lot last year just because of Castellanos, and I'm very excited to see him in Philadelphia this year.
Yes. I mean, that the Phillies will be a lot better in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. So let's jump into some win totals here. I think the first one we start with is the Dodgers, just because it's the highest in baseball right now. 98.5 wins to the Los Angeles Dodgers. I think this is like hammer the over.
This is go to the bank, pull out a second mortgage, and hammer the over.
Like, I'm surprised it's we're using FanDuel right now. I'm surprised it's 98.5. Like, I guess you probably can't list them at 102 or 103 this early, but if this team doesn't win 103, 4, 5, 6 games, what's the best team in baseball history? Do you know? Like 110, 112 in that range?
Best record in MLB history, the Chicago Cubs, 116-36.
Okay, so this Dodgers team has the scariest lineup in baseball by far. They have Walker Buehler starting on opening day, which thank God it's no longer Clayton Kershaw. Like it's Walker Buehler's ball. They needed to give it to him. I'm glad about that. And they could have Trevor Bauer coming back. And they likely will have Trevor Bauer at some point this season with the scariest lineup in baseball. But if this team doesn't win 110 games, there's something wrong.
Yeah, and they lost Scherzer, who gave him 11 starts. He was 7-0 in those 11. Even without him, I mean, they won 106 games last year and lost their division by 1 because for some reason the Giants decided to play baseball last year.
Yeah.
And won 107. So, I mean, I think adding Freddie Freeman only makes that lineup better. And now with the DH, you can use Max Muncy and interchange Freddie Freeman and Max Muncy there. I mean, goodness.
Yeah, I mean, you also got Will Smith, who's one of the best offensive catchers in baseball. Like, it's just scary good. I mean, even a guy, like Chris Taylor, you brought Chris Taylor back. Like, he's going to be great for it. Like, he's a great guy, a great utility player, and he's going to do damage at the plate at some point.
I mean, they have so many weapons. It's not even funny.
No, Pollock, Muncy, Taylor, Seager, not Seager anymore. I'm going back to the day.
Trey Turner.
You got Trey Turner. You got Justin Turner. You have so many dudes that are like, it's just scary. It gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
And by the way, they have this. Well, it might be a sore
Nah.
subject for you, but they got Mookie Betts.
They got Mookie. How we forget? They got Cody Bellinger. Like if Cody bounces back, like we just can't remember all these names because there's so many of them.
There's so many.
So yeah, I don't know why FanDuel has listed this one so low. I think you probably can't get someone to bite if you go like 104 or something, but 98.5. I mean, that is a great steal at -110. This Dodger team needs to win over that with ease.
Yes.
And but they do have the curse. They do have the curse. Dave Roberts said, he came out and said, if we don't win the World Series, there's a problem, or we take it to the bank, we will win the World Series. I still don't think that doesn't mean they won't reach 100 wins. I just think they might lose in like 7 games in the World Series.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty much. They'll be there. I'd be shocked if they weren't.
Exactly.
Okay, so we'll move to Cardinals. We'll move to your team here. Let's see what they have. The Cardinals.
84.5.
84.5 wins. That's a tough one.
Which is also a little bit of a joke, in my opinion. I think, last year they were miserable through, the summer months. Granted, they had that 17-game winning streak. And people like to discredit that, but we play the game for a reason, right? What are we supposed to do? Roll over and die for those 17 games and just be terrible? No, you play the game and you win. What are you going to do? Now 17 games is a bit extreme, and it would be shocking to see that, but watching what that offense did in that 17 games, there's no reason that they can't do that throughout the year. And I think that there's a lot of mojo around the team right now, and I would expect the Cardinals to at least win 90.
Yeah, I like them to go over that. I think that's a with the weakness in the Central Division. I mean, you don't have to play the NL West too much. I don't know how many games they play against the NL West, but that's the division that you're going to be a little afraid of.
Right.
You know what the interleague games are this year? I didn't look at that.
I did not. The interleague games.
As long as they don't have the AL East. I don't think they do. There's no way they have AL East because I looked at the Red Sox schedule. But okay, we're going over there, Colton. That's how it rolls.
Yeah, definitely the over there. The interleague games, it is the AL East.
Oh, wow.
They've got Baltimore, Toronto, Boston. I'll be in Boston for that Sunday night game.
Oh, really? That's yep. You're seeing the Cardinals in Boston?
Yeah, yep.
What day is that?
Sunday, June 19th.
All right, I'll be here, Colton.
I'm
going to that game. I'll be there. Let's meet up.
Let's do it. Let's plan it.
I'll give you guys a tour. I'll give you guys a tour of Fenway area. It's a lot of fun around here. You're here to watch baseball, but it's one of the coolest environments I've been to.
I like that.
All right, so we'll keep going here. We're both going over there. New York Mets. Let's see. New York Mets listed at 91.5. I think for a Mets team, that is extremely high in a very good National League East. I mean, I think that total is predicated on we have Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom.
Yes. I will take the under on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't think they have the offensive firepower to put up 91, 92 wins. And again, a lot of it's the same story year after year with the Mets. You have to stay healthy. And I don't think they can. Until they prove me wrong, I'm going to go with the under.
Now, with that being said, too, I think Frankie Lindor does have a better year this year than he had in the past, than last year. But again, I just don't think it's enough to get them over that total to be safe. I mean, there's better plays. Like Dodgers 98 wins is a much better play than taking an over on Mets at 91.5.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so then we'll go to the Red Sox. We'll go to the AL East. Colton, I think overall, and I'm not being biased here, the AL East is the best division in baseball.
Yes, I agree, and I think that the NL East might be able to compete with them depending on the Mets. Mm-hmm. But I do think that the AL East is the best division in baseball this year.
Yeah, I mean, these teams are just going to beat the crap out of each other. It's not a top-heavy division. I mean, 4 of these teams are going to compete. Obviously, Baltimore.
And then there's Baltimore.
Then there's Baltimore. This division comes down to who beats up Baltimore the most this year.
It's typically the AL East this year is kind of how the NL Central's been in years past, where you've got 4 teams. Well, then there's Pittsburgh. Throw them in there.
And Pittsburgh and Baltimore, I don't see them recovering anytime soon.
No.
Okay, so This is a little disrespectful, I think. I think it's a good win total, but Boston's like picked fourth to win the division at plus 600. I think that's a great deal. I'm not saying buy it, but for the value, it's great because every team's like plus 200 in that range. But 85.5 wins for the Boston Red Sox, Colin. I think this is slightly disrespectful when you look at the Yankees, the Rays, and the Blue Jays. They're all 90 plus.
Yeah.
This team won over 90 games last year.
They did. I just, I do
year,
like them to win over 90. I'll take the over on the Red Sox.
You doing that because I'm here, Colton?
What?
You doing that for me because I'm here?
Well, a little bit, but also, I mean, I don't know. Last year, I thought that they kind of flew under the radar a little bit, especially for that division, that Boston can kind of do that because obviously the focus of that division is always going to be on the Yankees. Now the focus is turning a little bit to the Rays because they continue to win with no money.
Yep.
And so a lot of the focus is on them. And then you have obviously Boston and now Toronto. It's kind of going to be the talk of that division. So I think that the Red Sox could sneakily win quite a few games this year.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I look at this. The Yankees are power bats. If they're not hitting home runs, they're not going to be good. The team didn't get that much better this year, and we not dominate. I think it was 10-9, and then we beat them in the playoffs. You look at the Rays got worse, but they're always going to be good. They won 100 games last year. And then you look at the Blue Jays, got a lot better. Big winners in free agency, too. We didn't mention them, but I think everyone just knows they're going to be good. So we'll go Yankees and Blue Jays, our final two teams on here before we wrap up the show. The Yankees are listed at 91.5. They will win 90 games. I can't imagine they don't.
Yeah, I agree. Because probably quite a few of those will be home games. And again, it's the power bats that'll lead them to at least 92 wins or so. No chance of them getting to 100 in my opinion, but they'll definitely be over 91.5.
100%. And then we will go Toronto Blue Jays here. This is the big one, Cole, and I think this is an interesting number. Oh wait, they dropped Tampa Bay down to 89.5. I kind of like the over on that. Anyways, Blue Jays over 92.5 or under 92.5. I think you can't not take the under here. But it's going to be tight. Like, I don't think this team's an 100-win club.
No.
In the division they're in.
There's kind of a lot of hype around this team, and people are expecting big things to come from them. And I feel like in years past with the MLB, typically when that happens, teams fall flat on their face. I mean, it was 3 years ago, people were expecting the Reds to win the Central, and look at them now. Obviously, the Dodgers are a little bit of an outlier, I think, considering they spend money. But the Blue Jays will be very solid, but I'd like to see how they're going to be with the spotlight on them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is Vladdy had the quote there. It was like, last year was the trailer, this year's the movie. I believe that. I mean, but there's a lot of unknowns there. George Springer has to stay healthy too, in my opinion. If he doesn't stay healthy, that's really going to hurt them. I think they got worse pitching wise. I'm going to be honest. I think they got worse pitching wise, but they just have a juice lineup right now. They stayed the same. I would say that they stayed the same by making moves.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, you've got, with Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, Guerrero, and now you throw George Springer. I think Robbie Ray's in that starting lineup.
You got Chapman too.
Yep. They'll be all right.
Yeah.
But what did you say they were at? 92.5?
92.5. Got to go over on it. If they're going to win the division, if you got them to win the division, you got to pick the over.
Right. Yeah. And I was talking with one of our SIDs at Bradley today, who's a Toronto fan, and he's expecting a big year out of them. But I don't know. I can't buy into the hype yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's still the Blue Jays, right? It's still that Canadian baseball team. That's what I'll say about that. It's still the Blue
Jays.
So yeah, I mean, we'll see about them, but I don't honestly, in my heart of hearts, I don't think the Blue Jays will win the division this year. I think it's going to take them a couple years to realize that how this team works, right? I just don't think you're going to put together a super team and have them win right away.
No, very few teams have ever done that. Period.
Yeah, and I mean, Vladdy had an unreal year last year. The odds of him doing that again are not super high. I mean, he's going to have a good year, but I don't think might not be right where he was last year. So
yeah, no, I agree, and hopefully you can get a little bit more out of the rest to possibly compensate for that. But as you said, a lot of it's going to depend on George Springer to, one, stay healthy, and two, if he stays healthy, can he produce as he did in Houston?
100%. So, Colton, that was a lot of fun, man. Talking baseball. Baseball's back.
Yes, baseball is back. I could not be more excited. That was fun. And then hopefully we can continue this every week.
Yep.
And next week might have our first power rankings.
There we go.
Just
power rankings, baseballspotlight.com. Come on now. One of the best websites in the Sports 2.0 network. I think the second most traffic website in the network. So let's keep that going there. But that does it, guys, for Between the Lines. MLB free agency talk, best 2022 future bets. We will be back next week for another episode. Colton, see you soon.
We'll see you, Tanner.